Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd. I'm Heather Bernt-Santy, and today I've got Tiffany Pearsall with me. Yay. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi.
We're
And
going to talk
Tiffany
about
has
Anne Helen Petersen, and oh, hi,
Tiffany has
Judy's
a
here
little friend
too.
with her today too, so it might
Yeah.
be chaos pod.
Yes, if you hear child noises, it's Tiffany's actual child making noises. So we're going to talk about an article from Anne Helen Petersen's Substack called Culture War. Is it? No, it's not. What's it called? Culture Studies. It's not
Culture
called Culture
study,
Wars. I
not
told you I
culture war.
wasn't sure I was
She
prepared.
studies the culture wars.
Culture study. And so she's an American journalist and writer. She's written several books that I love, and also now has this great Substack that I follow.
I'm obsessed. She's
Yeah,
one of my favorites. I've been
she's so
along. She's
good.
got this Tumblr, I think it is, how it started, of culture study academic style or celebrity
Um, Celebrity
academic.
gossip, academic style.
Yeah.
I know that was on Facebook. I don't know if it still is. Um,
No, it's transitioned.
yeah, but I think that's how I found her, is you recommended that for me.
Mhm.
And then I was trying to find, I think when we were at our nerd sleepover, you were talking and like we all pulled out our phones and started ordering books.
Uh-huh.
Um, so she wrote one called Can't Even, How Millennials Became the Burnout Generation.
Yeah, as a
And
millennial, I deeply resonated.
Too Fat, Too Slutty, Too Loud, The Rise and Reign of the Unruly Woman, which led to me getting unruly tattooed on my body.
Yeah.
And then Scandals of
Yeah.
Classic Hollywood, which was a delight because that's one of my
It's
other
like
hobbies.
all of
So
your
it just
wheelhouses in a wheelhouse right
everything's right
now.
there with Anne. But we're gonna talk about a specific piece called the title's not printed on my When Your Profession is on Fire. And she's not specifically early childhood. And she does talk about teaching in this article, but um, uh, it's not specifically written to us, but it sure could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it could have been. I feel
Yes.
like she understands
Yeah.
like care
Yeah.
and care professions in a way that like she's the one who can zoom out and see it all.
Hmm.
And I don't know how she does that magic, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
here for it.
Yeah. So in this piece, she writes about purpose jobs and passion work. Um, and she defines it really pretty quick. Her easy definition is passion work is doing work you feel called to, a job that makes you feel very obviously fulfilled, a job that announces itself clearly as making a difference. Um, and then she says, she talks about how it's kind of difficult to define sometimes. She said, passion work is like obscenity. You know it when you see it. Um,
Yeah.
Passion jobs are often, but not always, dominated by women, in part because many of them are in caring fields where there's a historic expectation that people, read women, would and should do this work for free. So, of course, that's us, right?
Yeah. Of course, that's us. And I think that like anytime you enjoy your job, you should want to do it for free feeling too.
Right, right. I mean, I think that where this hit for me is I've had this ongoing, I'll say discomfort. It's more nuanced than that, but especially since COVID,
Mm-hmm.
when people we're talking more openly about exploitative pay and practices and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been so many times in the last few years where I am having a conversation and I say something about how we should hold early childhood teachers accountable to, basic things like understanding development and basing their decisions on what we know about children's needs and rights and not just this, academic pushdown or whatever. And there's so
Mm-hmm.
often somebody in the conversation who will say, but our teachers work so hard and they make so little. Like that's an excuse to not try to do the work well,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. And I agree with
Absolutely.
that. I've done the work. I did the work before COVID jacked up some of our hourly rates, and I was a center director for like $12 an hour.
Yeah.
So I know both sides of this argument, but um I get stuck in it. Like this is a passion job, a purpose job. This is passion work. I couldn't do it for free, but I wonder if I would, if I was independently wealthy, if I would still do it.
You can still do it for free.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a piece of work that like it shouldn't be a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it
Right.
was a hobby, you could just do it when you feel like it.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that there is this, yes, I get paid to do this. Yes, it is a field that I do work in. It gets you through those points where as a hobby you might be like, meh,
Yeah.
I don't need
That's
to
true.
keep knitting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right,
You know?
fine. You win that one. No, but I mean,
But
we
I
have
do think
we
that there's particularly a piece of this that it's not like we're sticking it to big pharma.
yeah.
Like the people who are getting stuck with our union bargaining, we've been trying to form center director unions forever, and it's just not,
Mm,
it's sometimes it works and sometimes it just fizzles and doesn't.
yeah.
But the people who are affected by that bargaining are the families that you care for, right? We're not lobbying against the government for higher pay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're saying, hey, moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and caregivers, like, you're the big bad that needs to pay me more. Like, ultimately, that's the cycle that childcare gets stuck in.
Right.
It's not the same as like a teachers union that lobbies with the government for higher
Right.
pay that needs to like realign their multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar budgets each year.
Yeah.
It's that the people who live down the street from you who make the same amount as you do at their hourly wage now need to pay you more.
Yeah.
And that to me is where it gets feeling really icky. Like, yes,
Right.
I want to validate this field. I want us to get paid more. We need to
Mm-hmm.
get paid more for it to be a sustainable, not
Right.
burnout factory, like
Right.
AHP, as I like to call her, that AHP talks about
Yeah.
in her article. Like, in order to get out of that cycle, like there has to be some really big fundamental system-wide changes to make that happen.
Right. Right. And I hear things like, the reason this article is called when your profession is on fire or whatever is that idea of it burns you out when you're doing this purpose passion work. It's easier to burn out. One, because you care so much, but also because of the exploitive practices and the idea that for one thing, any woman can do it. So women get into the jobs not knowing what the depth and hard difficulty of the work is. Or just
Yeah.
personality, oh wait, no, this isn't for me. Um, but you're right. It's so complicated. We can't just say, well, I wouldn't be so burned out if I made more money. I mean, we can say it, but to fix it isn't just raise your rates for families because families already are so taxed by it. And it also can't. I get so uncomfortable when the other answer is, well, we need more federal investment, government investment, because I also don't want them coming in and saying, well, yeah, you are going to be school for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and we'll tell you what to do.
Yeah,
Because there's already a little bit too much of that coming top down in the field.
absolutely.
So one of the things she talked about in here was the difficulty or the piece of it too that then leads to us working just ridiculous numbers of hours every week. So that doesn't affect me as much right now. When I was a center director, for sure. But I know I watch you from afar, and it seems like you are constantly working.
Yeah, it's getting better. We're like getting to a place of copacetic.
Yeah.
But any of these passion-driven fields, you can't just be like, screw you guys, I'm not answering emails on a Tuesday after 5.
Yeah.
Like, that's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to have teachers that are there the next day.
Right.
And if you're not answering calls after 5, you just won't have staff. Like,
yeah.
There's so many. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know what that life is like. But it's that saying that if it's your passion, you want it to go well every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is kind of the like Ouroboros of the field, is that like you love it, you want to be successful at your job, like you want to feel good in your life,
Right.
not just like I want to be the best preschool teacher, but like I want to leave as a morally fulfilled and happiness and joy fulfilled person every day.
Yeah. How
And
dare you?
how dare you? And there's the side of it too that like you see the tip of the iceberg at school during the working hours, but then there's the whole bottom half that is like researching different types of slime and making sure that you've been to the store to get all the things and having all the materials set, and oh shoot, I forgot to sanitize all the beds, and like all of this stuff that goes into before that little bit on top that you could just put off and not do, but then it means that you're not doing the other things, and there's always more work to do.
Right. Right.
I don't think there's ever a place where like, oh, I get all my schoolwork done at school is a reality. I don't think that's real for any teaching education field.
Yeah.
And part of that is that like we've trained kids that homework is a normal thing to control their lives for more than 8 hours a day their entire life. So like we have to do our homework too as teachers.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I've tangented. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. I was trying to decide which direction I wanted to go. I think a big part of the conversation here too. I mean, turnover was horrible before COVID.
Yeah.
I think in early childhood it was about a 40% nationwide annual turnover rate. I didn't look to see what it is now. I'm sure it hasn't gone down. I know here locally, and I hear this from all over the place, we have centers who have full rooms that they just don't open because they don't have staff for it. Indiana is looking at changing licensing rules so that it's easier to find folks who can meet standards and be in those spaces so that people can find childcare and go to work and feel okay about where their child is while they're at work. So I know that this burnout can go in two directions. It can go to people who leave the field, and that disrupts, in addition to just disrupting the system, it disrupts relationships, and there's an impact on children and families and the rest of the folks who are still working there. With the asterisk that not all turnover is bad. Like some people should go, and that's okay. So we either have people leaving burned out or we have people staying burned out. And the people staying burned out adds an extra level of care to the job. You know, you talked about caring earlier. And so then it becomes a job of, you know, we throw self-care around a lot, but the system needs to care about those adults and those children, right? Self-care, I'm not just gonna, you know, have a pizza party on Friday or whatever and you know, write thank you notes to staff on a bulletin board. All those are nice things to do. That's not going to care someone out of the stress of being burned out.
Yeah. And that person who is burnt out that stays is like a sinking ship.
Yeah.
Pulling everyone down with them at the same time.
Yeah, I don't have any answers. I'm processing. This podcast so far is pure process. I mean, I think that, you know, there are things like, in the same way that we focus on relationships with children, if we can focus on, you know, positive all the things we talk about for resilience with children, we can point back to adults, and that's, you know, relationships and rest and basic needs being met and things like that. But it's a tough place to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the role of directors in that situation is very much the caretaker of the caretakers, the caregiver of the caregiver.
Yeah.
Like you have the power to do that as a director. I really feel for people who work alone in homes.
Yeah.
Because you don't have, I mean, you might have your own personal network of support, but there's not that there's no organizational support for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard.
Yeah. So do you, like what kinds of things do you do as a director? You yourself, like
Oh, I hired
to,
a new director.
oh, perfect. Yeah. I think I knew that. But
Because I
anyway, but
only
how do
teach,
you address that in your
that's
own
a
system?
thing I
Like,
do. I only teach now.
perfect.
Like doing both was not sustainable for anybody.
Right. Oh, for sure.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that we need to do.
Hmm.
Always striving for higher pay for our teachers in every ounce of that.
Yeah.
Um, I think giving teachers a lot of freedom
Hmm.
has been really helpful.
Hmm.
Um, I want them to want to be at work every day.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting one because um I think part of the burnout when I have been in the classroom,
Mhm.
part of my what one of the biggest contributing factors or the places I liked working the least were the ones
Yeah,
that told me here's how you have to do it. Um and
yeah,
I didn't have the freedom to act out my own kind of ethics
yeah,
in the
for sure.
classroom, but also to um, base things I was doing on the people in that space at that time, rather
Yeah,
than, one place was a chain where the curriculum came down from one office in one part of the country, and every 2-year-old in the world who attended those centers was supposed to be doing the same things,
yeah, yeah,
every day and every morning. Those are the hardest times for me. I quit once and went and worked in a bank, and lasted about not even 6 months because who cares about other people's money? But I did deeply care about other people's children, so I went back. But I think that freedom is such a big piece, and that contributes to the cycle though, because if we say we need more outside investment to make this sustainable,
yeah.
how do we do that without giving away more of our freedom than we've already given away as a field?
Mm, yeah. Mm,
Yeah, we can't.
I don't know
There's no
about
good
that.
answers
Yeah,
for any of this.
there's no good answers. I am gonna have a Tiffany hot take right now. Uh,
Perfect.
my
They're my
husband and I
favorite.
talk a lot about you're either a live to work person or a work to live person.
Yeah.
And I think passion fields draw the live to work
Hmm.
individual in droves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think to have a really healthy workplace, you need a balance of both.
Oh, okay.
And you need the people around that are like, you know what? It is 4:01 and I'm off at 4 and I'm
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Because then you have the freedom to say, oh, I can leave on time.
Oh,
The
yeah.
world doesn't end.
Someone else sets
And
that model for you, and it's
yeah,
easier
and
than
you
to do it
have
yourself.
that
Yeah. Okay.
exactly. And you have that person that's like, I didn't get the paint dishes done and I'm going to find time to do it tomorrow, but I'm
Uh-huh.
tired and
Yeah.
my body needs to rest now. Like
Yeah.
in these passion fields, it's often viewed as like, what, you don't have the work ethic to finish this thing you started? But
Right.
really, it's like you have those people have the balance
Hmm.
that they respect and they honor. And I think unless you have both,
Yeah.
that you will get stuck in that burnout cycle forever.
Yeah. I'm really excuse me, everyone. Sorry for that
Ugh.
throat clearing right into the mic. And we all know Heather doesn't edit, so it'll be there. Anyway, I'm struggling with that this summer because um so I'm teaching at a college, program chair, all that stuff. Was that a dog or a child?
There's dogs.
Anyway, for the summers, I work a decreased contract. The word's failing me. So I'm only 75% or whatever. So my plan is to work, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, have 4-day weekends to do relaxing and living and stitching and all those things I want to do, but also to work on writing. Um, uh, but everybody, I guess where I'm going with this is that it's really hard for me to hold that boundary even on Monday and Friday. And even
Yeah.
when I specifically, have this written contract that says you should only be working this much because that's all. So I feel like I'm working more for less pay,
Yeah.
for some reason, but it's hard to do that. And what you just said reminded me of one of the reasons it's so hard, because I don't see anybody else doing that, really, like saying, no, I'm on a reduced contract. That's the big word I couldn't think of earlier. I'm
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
reduced contract. I'm not doing that this summer, and I'm bad at it. I'm bad at it.
It's hard. And
Yeah.
if you don't have people modeling, then like you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
even though you're
exactly.
not, you're just like literally doing the job that you've been
Right.
asked to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you did that, Tiffany. Hot take.
I also think many passion fields, passion jobs are task oriented, not time oriented.
Ooh, what's that
So
mean?
like when you go and work at the bank, you're here from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You clock in, clock out. You're not going to be working the teller box at home.
Right.
But
It's a
for
window. It's
passion
a teller
fields,
window.
it's like, it's not that I'm here. It's not my presence. It's my content, or it's this thing that I promised to do. It's this presentation. It's that like the content is so much a part of it, whether that's teaching or writing or, you know, any of those sort of things.
Yeah.
Words are escaping me now too.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
Welcome.
But so then when the thing that you're judged by is the task and not the time that you're there, suddenly there's this pressure, like, this is all of the time that I have. I need to make it worthy. And it's not judged by how long you spent actually working on it. It's how much effort and how much brain cells have been invested.
Yeah.
And
that just reminded me of one of the other things that AHP, I'll say it too, right in here. She writes that working all the time begins to feel right because it feels like the only way to be right, to be a good moral person. This thinking holds even if you also feel like you're constantly falling short, which just leads you to work more, even when your body, your peers, and your family are begging you to work less.
yes.
Definitely the whole, I definitely used to be really super humble braggy about how I worked all the time. I was always doing some project or whatever, and I had the pencil, the pencil bag that said hustle and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is silly. This is just silly. I shouldn't do it all the time.
No, you shouldn't. You have to also live a life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where childcare, I think, is this particularly pigeonholed. I don't think that's the right word.
Okay.
Childcare is in a precarious situation because the core of excellent childcare is living life well with children.
I love that. Yes.
And so you spend all of your professional life trying to live life well. And then your personal life is like, well, I've lived my life well for 8 hours, 9 hours already today. What do you mean I have to also live my life well at home?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that line gets so fuzzy.
Yeah.
So fuzzy.
Yeah. I think this is sort of a tangent, but not really. But I remember a long, long, long time ago, you and I talked about quality. I think I don't know if it was a conversation or we were recording. And you said that instead of talking about quality childcare, you wanted to start talking about healthy childcare. Yeah, and I love
Raise
that.
the baseline, lower the bar.
And it has stuck with me. So I'm in lots of conversations now where we're trying to look at this childcare problem that we have, where people aren't staying in the work and they're not coming to the work, but we still have consumers who need the work. And there's always this insertion of the word quality. Okay, but it has to be quality. We can solve the problem. If we're going to try and solve the problem, we have to make sure it's quality. And I'm not going to argue against the philosophically, but for me, I wonder if we started saying quality of life instead of quality
Mm,
childcare.
yeah.
Like you know, you just
Ooh,
were talking about living your best life during the day. If we started to say childcare when we're thinking about childcare problems and solutions, we need to also consider quality of life. Um,
yeah.
then it's not, you can't checklist that, you can't, you know, box curriculum that. Um, I'm going to start
Mm-mm.
doing it. I just
I
talked
love it.
myself into it.
Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna start doing it. That like I
Oh,
love the
perfect.
subversive when somebody says like, well, we need something high quality. Oh, excuse, do you mean high quality of life? So
Yeah,
I
there
don't know
you
what
go. Yeah.
that what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just new here.
Yeah.
Do you mean quality of life?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have gotten to a point where if someone says, you know, research says high quality, blah, 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 I'll say, what research? And they don't. I don't
And they
know.
don't.
The
Yeah, they
the website I went to said research says.
don't.
Or they say quality and I'll say, what does that mean? And they'll say, like, oh, the rating scale. And I'll, oh, well, you know.
What rating scale?
There's a whole
Which
other way of thinking about quality, but quality of life is just like a snappy
yeah.
throw it in there and let them reject it.
Yeah.
Make them explicitly reject the idea that children deserve
Yeah.
and their teachers
Yeah.
deserve to have
Yeah.
a good, safe, healthy quality of life.
Yeah. Can we talk about my favorite thing to think about?
Please. Is it
How do we put
efficiency?
out the fire? What's the solution,
Oh,
Heather?
I
Uh-oh.
don't know. That's what I said. This is classic process over product, early childhood work. I
We're
don't, I
here
mean,
for the process over the product, even for
yeah, yeah,
grown-ups.
that's what I don't, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just another way for folks who are listening to think and talk about their
I really,
experiences.
she said something in here about like individualism.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to find it now. That like we've gone so down the fierce individualism
Mm.
hole that we
Ooh,
don't.
I do love a good critique of fierce individualism.
Here's another fun thing. When this article translated to PDF, it removed every moment where F and I were next to each other. It's just gone. It's just a
Oh,
space now.
interesting.
So I had to do some interesting translated, especially because the word fire is used all the
So
time.
prevalent
I
in the
kept being like,
article.
what does what does RE mean? And like
What's it
and
regarding?
eld. I was like, is ELD like a new term for something I'm not familiar with? What is an eld?
Yeah,
No,
check it
it's
out on
field.
Urban
What is
Dictionary.
field? Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
individualism. I don't find it.
uh, yeah, I don't know
Okay.
where it
I was like,
was.
this is getting into really fascinating pod territory. But we could
Really
just talk about
fascinating.
what we think about it and how it relates. We don't need to know what
Yeah,
Anne said. I mean,
I'll find
I
it
think
after
anytime
this.
we feel like we have to survive on our own, we're in danger. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
and you know, I have worked when people are unhappy at work, you can see it. Like relationships fail or that kind of passive aggressive or clicky kind of stuff pops up
Hmm.
stronger. And I think part of that is it's survival mode, right? And we think we have to survive as an individual rather than
Yeah,
what could we each do for each other to relieve some of this stress? Or if I'm feeling, you know, it could be something as I was just talking about this the other day, and actually in one of my classes where we were talking about swearing. Um, and I was remembering when I think it was Richard Cohn had a coworker and they had a code when one of them needed to just step into the closet and swear to themselves and then come back out feeling a little rejuvenated. So it could be just something as small as that if we're thinking about breaking out of this kind of harmful framework of individualism and pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. It could just be finding someone who knows that you're feeling that way.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, I guess, but I don't know what the answer is, and Anne didn't give us an answer in the
No.
article.
Yeah.
But I think it does give us a different way of thinking about the problem that we're living, and a different way
Absolutely.
of thinking about, why do I feel like this?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm burning out. Or oh, the whole profession is a mess. It's not just me. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe that's part of the healing that leads to a systems change,
Yeah.
even if it's just your small system. You're just your little
Yeah. I
classroom
think
system or your center
I think
system, and then we spread it
the
out.
more you can go upstream to solve the problem,
Hmm.
the
What do you
better.
mean?
So like if the problem is that I'm working too much and I don't have enough energy to do this job well, like how do I cut back
Hmm.
and realign my expectations?
Yeah.
But there's also that like, well, if the problem is that we're not getting paid enough, like how do you get upstream enough to actually
Yeah.
impact the change? And I think like as soon as you can get upstream enough, as soon as you can get ahead of the problem to solve it, like that's when the system is going to actually change.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
just identifying
definitely.
the problem. It's like, let me get exactly to the first problem upstream of me. And then like, it just like
Yeah.
keep salmon swimming upstream.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
the only way.
definitely having a cathartic swear in the closet
Yeah,
isn't going to solve the problem of, I can't pay my rent.
no.
Yeah, so I want to stick that in. I'm not suggesting a bubble bath will solve all your problems, but
But
sometimes
having
for
a
survival, it's those.
co-teacher,
What?
having a co-teacher that validates your experience and agrees with you that
Hmm.
sometimes it gets hard and you need to be in a
Yeah,
closet to swear to yourself, like
yeah,
that validation is very
yeah,
important.
yeah. But I love
Because I've also worked
the
with people
imagery
that
of
are
going
angels
upstream.
and never get upset and are confused why you may be frustrated that the same child has screamed your name 6,000 times today. Like, if you're not getting that like, if you're not getting
Yeah,
that validation anyway, then
yeah,
that is definitely a problem.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes I don't know. I think um it's a big problem that we can't individually solve.
Mhm.
We have to look around us at both the system and the people that are
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
Um, and it won't be solved in a short term either.
Mm-mm.
So I guess that's where I feel like I know that there's big systemic change that needs to happen, and we can work towards that, but we have to do some deep thinking, um, and connecting with each other to do that. But I also know that the reality is that children are in spaces with burned out adults,
Yeah.
right now, that will be impacted. And so we have to figure out what's the short term real life thing that I can touch today that will sort of keep me present with
Yeah.
these children
And there's the passion
without
with
without
fire.
denying the real stress people live in.
There's like the crux of the passion fire to me is that
Yeah.
those children in your care today only get one childhood.
Yeah.
They don't have an entire career to wait for this fix. They have one childhood for you to make as good as you can
Hmm.
with the time you were given.
Hmm.
And that is like, well, why? I guess I can't stop working. Right? Like that pressure.
Well, but we can divide that out. There's the
It's
work
not just
of
our pressure to,
cleaning your
it's
paint
not,
trays, and there's the work of being the human being that this child in front of you needs you to be. That you can't stop
yeah.
until it's 401, and then it's someone else's turn to share space with that child. But the paint trays you can stop
Yeah.
or
Absolutely.
refigure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Well, sorry, folks, we didn't solve the problem for you, but we're working on it.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
We'll keep working.
Tune in to our cabin in the woods where Tiffany records us for 6 days straight, solving the problem unedited.
Right. I am really looking forward to that cabin in the woods. So perfect. We just need everybody to break into small groups of cabins in the woods where they
Yes.
just stream of
And
consciousness for 6
yes.
days. And
Then
then
we'll use AI to like generate, we'll compare every single conversation and then like,
the most meaningful word cloud that ever there was.
yeah. That's what will solve it. A good word
A word
cloud.
cloud. All right. All right. We'll have, okay. Anyway, well, thank you, Tiffany. This was a fun
Yeah.
conversation. It always is, even though it's really kind of a heavy topic. And I do really recommend Anne Helen Petersen. Like I said, she's
I
not specifically early childhood, but she's so
She's
smart and good.
so
And
smart and good.
yeah, yeah,
I love her.
yeah.
She has some really great pieces about being purposefully childless and like
Oh,
how she views her
but
role
doesn't
as
she have a child? I thought she did
no,
now. Okay, I'm
she
thinking
does
of
not.
someone else. Anyway, yeah, she has dogs.
She has dogs and
Yeah.
she very purposefully enjoys spending time with children.
Uh-huh. Okay, yeah.
And like her view as how does a community care for children is such a very unique and well written
Oh.
viewpoint that it has
Uh-huh.
changed a lot about how I think our society needs to care for children.
Ooh.
Right? Like
Well,
so much of what we hear from is people who are parents. You love the like,
yeah.
well, I have a daughter, so I
Yeah.
know about women's rights. Like a lot of people are like, well, I have kids, so let's
Yeah.
talk about what's best for kids. But she
Right.
has this ability to zoom out and say, look, I don't have kids, but I still really think we need to care for them.
Right. Ooh, I'm
And
gonna
it's
be
cool.
checking those
So
things, diving in deep for those, and then maybe we'll
scope
bring
it.
Carol in for a future conversation about it. Yeah. All
HP,
right.
if you're listening, come
Right,
chat.
I know. We'll see if we can grab her. I got Alfie Cohn to
Tell us
message
how
me
to
that one
fix
time and then ghost me. All right,
it.
everybody. If you know Anne Helen Petersen, we'd really love to have her on the show. And otherwise, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again on another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd. Bye.